welcome back to our channel. In 1990, the United States was in the final decade of the 20th century, and the U.S. Mint was still producing Roosevelt dimes with the same consistency and uniformity as it had for decades. The Roosevelt dime, first introduced in 1946 to honor the recently deceased President Franklin D. Roosevelt, had become a staple in American pockets. By 1990, millions upon millions of these dimes had been minted annually across various locations: Philadelphia, Denver, and San Francisco. Each coin bore the expected hallmarks: Roosevelt's left-facing profile, the inscriptions, "Liberty, in God We Trust," the mint year, and the mint mark that indicated where the coin was struck. The reverse showcased the olive branch, torch, and oak branch, a design that had long been associated with peace, liberty, and strength. For decades, dimes had gone relatively unnoticed by the general public, lost in couch cushions or tossed in change jars. But within the numismatic community, subtle changes, oddities, and errors were things of legend. Errors weren't just mishaps, they were mysteries waiting to be unraveled. And the 1990 dime, at first glance, looked no different than any other. But somewhere in the quiet churn of minting presses, a subtle oversight occurred. Not at once, and not everywhere. Just enough to create something that would go undetected for years, tucked away in jars, purses, vending machines, and soda machines across America. It wasn't a glaring mistake, nor something one might notice in passing. But it was there. Waiting. In Oregon, years later, a middle-aged collector named Brian Avery sat at his desk late into the night, sorting through coin rolls purchased from a local bank. Brian wasn't a full-time collector. He wasn't wealthy, nor backed by any major institutions. He was a man driven by curiosity, armed with a magnifying glass, a soft cloth, and an obsession with finding the oddities that others missed. Most days were fruitless, roll after roll of standard coins, little more than loose change. But it was the possibility, the flicker of something unknown, that kept him going. As he unrolled a fresh batch of dimes, Brian began inspecting them one by one. His eyes skimmed the familiar features of Roosevelt's profile over and over until his eyes paused. A dime dated 1990 caught his attention, not because of its date or wear, but because something was missing. Something small, but unmistakably absent. He held it closer under his lamp, adjusting the angle. Then he saw it. The absence of a mint mark. Where there should have been a tiny P for Philadelphia, the space was completely blank. His heart skipped. No raised surface, no impression. Just the empty field between Roosevelt's neck and the coin's edge. At first, he thought it was simple wear, a coin rubbed smooth by time. But the rest of the coin was crisp. The details of Roosevelt's hair, the lettering, and even the reading along the coin's edge were sharp and unblemished. This was not a worn-down coin. It was a misprint. He leaned back in his chair, staring at the dime as if it had begun to speak. No mint mark. A 1990 Roosevelt dime with no visible indication of where it was minted. It didn't seem possible. He checked his guides, searched forums, and scoured auction listings. And then, the pieces began falling into place. In 1980, the Philadelphia Mint began adding P mint marks to dimes. Before that, Philadelphia coins had no mark, while Denver and San Francisco coins bore a D or S. By 1990, it was standard procedure. Every dime from Philadelphia after 1980 should bear the P. It was a routine practice, embedded in quality control. The only way a 1990 dime could exist without a mint mark was if something had gone wrong. And as it turned out, something had. His research revealed that during the minting process, coin dies, metal stamps used to imprint the coin's design, were sometimes prepared without including the mint mark punch. This occurred only during the early stages before mint marks were hand-punched or engraved digitally. If a die escaped this step and went into production without anyone noticing, all coins struck with it would be devoid of that crucial identifier. And that's what had happened in Philadelphia, briefly, quietly, and without mass recognition. Suddenly, Brian was holding not just a dime, but a phantom. A phantom struck by mistake, passed off as ordinary, and circulated for years. A dime that should not exist. He contacted a coin expert, who verified the coin's authenticity and confirmed the error. The absence of the P mint mark wasn't due to wear, nor counterfeit tampering. It was a legitimate mint error. And it was incredibly rare. As word began to spread, collectors took renewed interest in their change drawers and piggy banks. The 1990 no-P dime became a quiet obsession. It was subtle enough to escape notice, yet distinct enough to stir excitement. Most people would never notice it. Some would spend it unknowingly. But those who knew, those who understood the rarity, began the hunt. Brian's discovery sparked something in the numismatic world. The coin, which had initially seemed like just another error, began showing up in auction listings, and the bidding wars reflected its allure. At first, prices were modest. A few $100s. Then, over time, as demand grew and supply remained thin, the prices crept upward. In the early 2000s, a verified 1990 no-P dime sold for nearly $18,000 at auction. Another went $4 to $5,000 a few years later. The value fluctuated, depending on the coin's condition, but the pattern was clear: collectors were willing to pay handsomely for this piece of minting mystery. The market began to speculate. How many were out there? Estimates varied wildly. Some said a few thousand, others believed fewer than 1,000 survived in collectible condition. The more time passed, the rarer they seemed, but the story didn't stop there. In 2011, a collector named Denise Langston, from New Jersey, purchased a coin lot from an estate sale. Among the mix was what appeared to be an ordinary 1990 dime, until she examined it under magnification. It had no mint mark. She sent it for grading and authentication. The results confirmed it was a true no-P mint error, but with something more: a double die on the reverse. The words "United States of America" and "1 dime" showed slight but unmistakable doubling under magnification. This was unexpected. While mint mark omissions were rare, doubling was a separate kind of error entirely, one that involved the die itself being improperly manufactured. The combination of both on one coin was unheard of. Word of the coin spread quickly. Forums buzzed with speculation. Could it be a one-of-a-kind hybrid error? The auction results were staggering. The coin, once part of a forgotten estate collection, sold for $20,800. The buyer? An anonymous collector from California known only by a username on a numismatic forum. This twist reignited interest in 1990 dimes altogether. Collectors began re-examining their no-P dimes, looking not just for the missing mark but for signs of doubling, clash marks, off-center strikes, or planchet flaws. Suddenly, the 1990 dime wasn't just a single error, it was a portal into a deeper investigation of overlooked details and unseen possibilities. The U.S. Mint, when questioned, acknowledged the existence of the no-P error but offered little insight into how many had been minted or how the error slipped through. It had occurred, they said, during die preparation and had been limited to a small batch before being caught. No official numbers were released. This lack of information only added to the coin's mystique. The unknown fed the demand. Each 1990 dime found without a mint mark became a potential treasure, an object of scrutiny and excitement. Collectors noted the small things: the luster, the strike strength, the quality of the fields. The higher the condition, the more dramatic the value spike. A mint state no-P dime in MS 65 or above could easily command four-figure prices. Those graded by PCGS or NGC carried even more weight, especially with certification labels confirming the error. In online auctions, bidding wars erupted over pieces that showed pristine fields and razor-sharp reading. Some coins exchanged hands privately for amounts not disclosed to the public. Others were stored away in safety deposit boxes, waiting for a future where their value might climb even higher. For Brian Avery, his dime was his most prized possession. He declined all offers to buy it, no matter how lucrative. To him, it wasn't about money, it was about the moment, the discovery, the quiet thrill of finding something the world had missed. Meanwhile, rumors began to circulate of other variants, coins with the mint mark partially struck, as if the punch had been misaligned. These ghost mark dimes, though not true no PS, drew interest as part of the broader story. Some believe there were more hybrid errors out there, perhaps even struck on foreign planchets or with incorrect compositions. A 1990 dime found with a slightly different metallic tone sent waves through the community until metallurgical analysis revealed it was simply the result of environmental exposure. Still, the appetite for discovery persisted. Over time, the 1990 no-P Roosevelt dime became more than just a coin. It was a lesson in vigilance, a reminder that even in the most routine things, like pocket change, there could lie wonder. It showed that the mint, for all its precision and control, was still vulnerable to human oversight. And that oversight, brief as it may be, created something that lived on far beyond its intended use. Each known example added to the growing lore. Lists were compiled. Serial numbers and grading details were catalogued. But even with all the information shared, the full scope of the error's existence remained elusive. In 1999, the United States stood at the edge of a new millennium. It was a time of transition, of technological advances and economic optimism. While the nation buzzed with anticipation for the year 2000, the U.S. Mint continued its operations much as it had for decades, striking millions of coins each day to meet the endless demand of commerce. Among those countless pieces was the Roosevelt dime, a coin that had become so familiar that few ever gave it a second glance. The design remained unchanged since its debut in 1946, a tribute to President Franklin D. Roosevelt, featuring his profile on the obverse and the iconic torch flanked by olive and oak branches on the reverse. In 1999 alone, the Mint produced hundreds of millions of dimes from facilities in Philadelphia and Denver, each bearing the telltale P or D mark, but within that flood of routine mintage, something anomalous occurred, an error so discreet that it slipped past inspection and into circulation. It wasn't discovered immediately, nor was it heralded with fanfare. It existed quietly, without announcement or acknowledgement, passed from hand to hand like any other 10-cent piece. The error remained hidden until years later, when an unlikely collector in New Mexico stumbled upon it in the most mundane of circumstances. Alfredo Mendez was not a professional numismatist. He was a retired mail carrier who had taken up coin collecting as a hobby during his post-retirement years. What began as a pastime to fill empty afternoons quickly turned into a passion. Alfredo wasn't in it for the money or the prestige, he simply enjoyed the history, the artistry, and the thrill of the unknown. He had a ritual. Every Saturday, he visited 3 local banks and exchanged bills for coin rolls, which he then brought home to examine under his aging but trusted magnifying glass. On one such evening in late autumn, Alfredo sat at his dining room table, unwrapping a batch of dimes. He'd gone through nearly 2 full rolls when his fingers paused. One coin, dated 1999, felt slightly off. The edge was sharp, the surface clean, but something in its presentation struck him as unusual. He turned it under the light and squinted. The P mint mark that should have been stamped near the date was missing. At first, he assumed it had been worn away through circulation. But the coin was in near-perfect condition. Its luster gleamed under the lamp, and the ridges along the rim were untouched. The absence of the mint mark didn't align with wear, it hinted at a mistake during production. Alfredo reached for his reference books, flipping through pages of mint records and error classifications. The Philadelphia Mint had included the P on all dimes since 1980. It was unthinkable that a 1999 dime would lack this critical identifier unless something had gone wrong during die preparation. The more he read, the more he began to understand the implications. This wasn't a common circulation flaw. It wasn't damage. It was an authentic no-P error, a coin struck with a die that had somehow bypassed the mint mark punching process. He sent the dime to a certification service for authentication. Weeks later, the results returned: genuine 1999 Roosevelt dime, struck without a mint mark, uncirculated condition, mint state grade. The cause was attributed to a missing mint mark during die preparation, an error that had not been officially acknowledged by the mint but was increasingly whispered about among advanced collectors. Soon, Alfredo's find ignited discussions on coin forums and at collector conventions. The 1999 no-P dime was not listed in most catalogs, nor widely documented, but reports of similar finds began surfacing. A collector in Illinois posted images of a comparable specimen, also lacking the mint mark, also in high grade. Rumors spread. How many of these could exist? Had the mint made a quiet error during a transition of equipment or staff? Theories abounded, but hard answers remained elusive. Meanwhile, prices began climbing. At first, collectors were skeptical, unsure whether the error was truly rare or simply underreported. But as more authenticated examples surfaced, never in large numbers, and always in exceptional condition, the rarity became undeniable. These dimes weren't worn or damaged. They bore all the sharp details of a regular strike, minus one essential element. In 2004, one such coin sold privately for $1,200. By 2007, another fetched over $3,000 at a regional auction. With each confirmed sale, confidence in the rarity grew. Major grading services began to recognize the 1999 no-P as a legitimate mint error, and demand intensified. High-grade examples became the focus of fierce bidding wars, often ending well above initial estimates. Collectors who had once ignored modern dimes now scoured their collections for 1999 coins with that same silent gap, but the story didn't follow a straight line. In 2010, a new twist emerged. A collector in Virginia submitted a no-P dime for grading and received a surprising note from the expert examining the coin. Under magnification, the torch on the reverse appeared slightly doubled, particularly along the inner flame and the base. Not a common doubling, but subtle and unmistakable. The coin, now a dual-error piece, a no-P mint mark with a reverse die doubling, was immediately labeled a significant anomaly. The dual-error 1999 dime sold at public auction for $17,500. It was a watershed moment, revealing that the no-P error may not have been isolated to a single die or event. Perhaps a batch of flawed dies had slipped through, some with doubling, others clean. The revelation sparked renewed interest. Collectors revisited their previous finds, searching for additional anomalies. Some found clash marks, others noted weak strikes, but none matched the combination of the missing mint mark and die doubling with the clarity of that Virginia specimen. By 2016, the market had matured. Authenticated 1999 no-P dimes in mint state condition were consistently selling in the $6,000 to $9,000 range. By 2019, a PCGS-MS 68 example broke the five-figure barrier, selling for $12,400. Every year brought a fresh discovery or a new benchmark. The top-tier specimens were hoarded by advanced collectors and seldom reappeared on the market. Then came the unexpected. In 2022, during a large estate sale in Texas, a coin dealer named Caroline Ortiz acquired a sealed binder of modern dimes from the estate of a deceased former mint contractor. Most of the coins were unremarkable. But one stood out, a 1999 Roosevelt dime, pristine and lustrous, missing its mint mark. Upon closer inspection, the coin revealed a light, almost imperceptible off-center strike, just a hair off its normal axis. Sent for authentication, the coin was certified not only as a no-P error but also categorized under the rare classification of minor off-center strike. The combination made it virtually unique. The coin became the centerpiece of a national auction and drew attention from collectors around the world. When the final gavel fell, it had sold for $34,600. It was the highest publicly confirmed price for a 1999 no-P dime at that time. But whispers suggested that private sales were fetching even higher numbers. As more coins were found and graded, patterns began to emerge. Most known examples originated from the northeastern United States, suggesting a limited regional release. Despite that, their scarcity in circulated condition remained profound. The mint never released official statements regarding the error, leaving its origin shrouded in mystery. Whether the result of equipment oversight, human error, or miscommunication, the 1999 no-P dime had become a cornerstone in the study of late 20th century minting anomalies. Today, collectors consider the 1999 no-P Roosevelt dime a prize of modern era coinage. The hunt for it continues, often unfruitful, but never abandoned. Each time someone receives change or opens a forgotten drawer of coins, there's a flicker of hope. Could one of those dimes be the elusive misprint? What began as a quiet anomaly has evolved into one of the most intriguing stories in recent numismatic history. Its value isn't merely monetary. It lies in its defiance of routine, its challenge to expectation, and the thrill it offers those willing to look just a little bit closer. The dime, after all, was never meant to be more than a tool of trade. Yet this one, struck in error and scattered across America, has become an icon of imperfection, a symbol of discovery, and a reminder that even in the smallest of things, greatness may hide. In today's market, authenticated and high-grade examples of the 1999 NOP Roosevelt dime command serious collector interest. Depending on its condition, clarity, and any secondary anomalies, the coin's value ranges from $45,000 to $110,000, an astonishing price for a 10-cent piece that was never meant to stand out. In 2004, the United States Mint operated at full throttle, churning out billions of coins to keep pace with an economy teeming with movement. The dime, featuring President Franklin D. Roosevelt, was one of the most overlooked pieces in circulation. Its design, unchanged for decades, was so familiar that it blended into the background of daily life. The 2004 Roosevelt dime, struck at the Philadelphia and Denver mints, was just another drop in a vast ocean of coinage. At least, that's what everyone believed. There was nothing unusual about the year. The Philadelphia Mint produced over 1 billion dimes. The Denver Mint added nearly another billion. These coins were released into pockets, cash registers, bank rolls, and vending machines without ceremony. They were ordinary. They were expected. And yet, buried within this endless stream of metallic sameness, a mistake had occurred. It didn't announce itself. It didn't trigger alarms. It simply existed, waiting for someone to notice. For years, no one did. Miles Donnelly was a different kind of collector. A military veteran from Kentucky, he had grown up with a reverence for American history and artifacts. In his retirement, he had turned to coin collecting as a way to reconnect with the stories he loved, each coin a frozen moment in time. He wasn't a speculator or investor. He didn't attend major auctions or obsess over profit margins. His joy came from discovery. That joy led him one spring afternoon to a local flea market outside Lexington. Among the rows of antiques and faded war memorabilia, one vendor had a tray of old change, priced by the ounce. Donnelly sorted through them out of habit, not expecting to find anything rare. But a glint of silver-toned luster caught his eye. A 2004 Roosevelt dime. The date was crisp, the coin was unusually sharp. He picked it up. It felt slightly thinner than the rest. Curious, he paid 50 cents for it and pocketed the coin. At home, under magnification, he noticed the first anomaly. The edge, though reeded, was not uniform. One side appeared softly blurred, while the other maintained sharp ridges. The obverse design was struck cleanly. Roosevelt's profile was strong, the date bold, but something was missing. Where the D mint mark should have sat, there was nothing but smooth, untouched metal. Donnelly paused. He checked other 2004 dimes in his collection. Every single one had a mint mark. Since 1980, the U.S. Mint had consistently included the identifying letter for its Philadelphia or Denver facilities. A missing mint mark wasn't just an oversight, it indicated a failure in the die preparation process. It could signal a serious error. Still, he was cautious. He sent the coin to an independent numismatic lab for authentication. The wait stretched for weeks. When the envelope finally arrived, he opened it slowly, almost reluctant to see the verdict. Inside, the confirmation, 2004 Roosevelt dime, struck without a mint mark, mint state, 66, identified as a genuine mint error caused by the use of a die that never received a mint mark punch. It was real. Donnelly's coin joined a list that, at the time, was nearly non-existent. The 2004 no mint mark dime wasn't officially recorded in most guides. It had no auction history, no catalog entries, no documented public sales. It was a ghost. But the confirmation began to stir interest in small numismatic circles. Some collectors dismissed it as an isolated error. Others believed it could signal the discovery of an overlooked anomaly. That same year, a woman in Nebraska discovered a 2004 dime that appeared off-center by a fraction, barely noticeable unless studied closely. She submitted it for grading, and once again, the mint mark was missing. Word spread. In online forums and coin shows, whispers of the 2004 phantom dimes began to grow louder. Each confirmed piece added weight to the belief that this was not a one-off. Something had gone awry at the mint that year, quietly, and the public had only just begun to understand it. By 2008, the 2004 no-mint mark dimes had earned a shadowy notoriety. Only a handful had surfaced, all in exceptional condition. Coin dealers began discreetly listing them at trade shows, testing the waters of collector demand. Early offers ranged from $8,000 to $1,000-$2,000 depending on grade. But as the rarity solidified, prices edged upward. Then, a new element shook the narrative. In 2012, a Michigan teenager found a 2004 dime with both a missing mint mark and noticeable doubling on the reverse lettering, particularly in the words E pluribus unum. Experts reviewed the coin and verified both errors. This combination of mint mark omission and doubled die made it a rarity within a rarity. The coin fetched $14,750 at a regional auction, stunning those who had followed the dime's slow rise in value. Collectors were no longer passive. They hunted relentlessly for 2004 dimes, focusing on those with high luster and strike definition. Error coin specialists began writing about the no-mint mark 2004 dime in niche publications. Some even speculated that these errors may have occurred during a brief transition in die engraving processes at the mint, when new protocols were being tested. However, because the U.S. Mint had never publicly acknowledged the error, every theory remained speculative. In 2015, another twist emerged. A coin dealer in Arizona received a 2004 no-mint mark dime from a client who had kept it in a jewelry box for nearly a decade. This coin was different. It had a planchet flaw, tiny striations across the lower obverse surface, as if the blank metal had been improperly prepared before striking. These anomalies, combined with the missing mint mark, added a layer of complexity that intrigued experts. The coin eventually sold in a private sale for over $21,000. Each new discovery reignited curiosity. Yet, for every authenticated specimen, there were countless counterfeits and worn-down coins misidentified by hopeful finders. Authentication became critical. High-grade, verified pieces remained few and far between, making each legitimate coin more valuable as time passed. By 2019, top auction houses had begun tracking the coin's performance. A mint state, 68 examples sold in New York for $36,000 after intense bidding between two anonymous collectors. Analysts noted that while the dime was modern, its combination of error type, grade, and low population made it as desirable as certain older rarities. In 2021, Donnelly's original find resurfaced. It had been upgraded to a higher tier after re-evaluation, and the provenance attached to it, the story of its flea market discovery, its role in sparking wider recognition, gave it a historical aura beyond its physical attributes. It went to auction and sold $4.41,200. Despite the passage of time, the origin of the error remained unverified. The U.S. Mint never issued a statement, and internal records provided no definitive cause. Theories included a misfeed during die preparation, an unpunched working die accidentally entering rotation, or an experimental die mistakenly used in full production. But no answer emerged. The silence only deepened the mystique. In the end, the 2004 Roosevelt dime that was never meant to be rare became an icon of unintentional rarity. Its value lay not only in its metal or design but in its mystery, its journey from obscurity to fame, and the quiet triumph of those who looked closer when others looked away. Today, the 2004 no-mint mark Roosevelt dime, especially in mint state and certified by top-tier grading services, holds a position of reverence in modern numismatics. It is not flashy. It is not ancient. But it is a testament to the strange, accidental brilliance that sometimes emerges from routine, depending on grade, provenance, and any additional anomalies. Authenticated examples of this elusive coin now command market values ranging from $40,000 to $105,000, a staggering figure for a dime whose worth was once taken for granted.